All right, here we go. Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium. It also goes out on the Lilydale Assembly Facebook page, as well as YouTube channels. So you can find it there. Sometimes it'll need to get uploaded later, so be patient. You can also watch us on the replay. A lot of people really enjoy being able to binge watch the show because this is year 7 of Wednesdays with Willa. So I've had a lot of great guests and great topics over the years. In fact, you can usually type in your favorite person or topic, and a lot of great shows will show up for you so that you can enjoy and educate yourself. Usually our topics are relating to spiritualism, mediumship, healing, faith, family, or more. And I am delighted to welcome onto the show today, Pam Coronado. Hello, Pam.
Hi, how are you? I'm glad to meet you.
Oh, yes. I think it's wonderful that you're able to come on the show today. Our topic is finding missing people, and you're the perfect person to talk about this today. For those of you who do not know who Pam Coronado is, she is an intuitive investigator, a vice president of the International Remote Viewing Association, and a 2024 Lilydale Workshop presenter. Pam Coronado has been involved with Psy criminal work since 1996 and is the star of Discovery Channel's popular series Sensing Murder. Gotta say it with that tone, right? And so you've been consulted as a psychic detective for large and small police departments on the state, federal, international, and even for private agencies. Pam has demonstrated her skills on live television for many networks, including A&E, Biography Channel, and Discovery Channel. And she is a wonderful advocate for helping people who are dealing with missing person cases and crime. And so such a delight that you're going to be in Lilydale this summer. We'll talk more about the workshops that she's involved with. And of course, we'll put the links up later so that you can just click and register for your tickets for the summer. But let's get into our topic for today, which is finding missing people. And this is something that I know is very near and dear to your heart.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it wasn't what I intended to do. I thought I was going to go in a totally different direction with my life. I thought I was going to actually I was going to school to be an architect, believe it or not. And I kept having all of these dreams. I didn't consider myself to be a psychic or an intuitive or anything like that. And I kept having all of these dreams. And eventually I realized that those dreams were corresponding with real cases that I was seeing in the newspaper. And then the one that changed my world, it turned out that I happened to go through her experience. I had like an empathic dream where I was her living her experience, which was very frightening. But I got a lot of insight into where her body might be found, and we actually were able to find her. And I was so moved by her family and what this meant to them, and being able to bring some answers, and not necessarily closure, but answers. And it just it grabbed my heart, and I decided I just wanted to do that forever.
Mm, yeah, I think it's incredible how that can work for people that you all of a sudden are given access to information that is so crucial to helping an individual or family or group uh, find their person, maybe move closer to peace about things, and possibly even bring people to justice as needed.
Yeah, yeah. Now it doesn't always, happen as easily as that as
Yes.
that one did.
Yeah.
After that happened, people started calling me. They heard about it on the news, and they started calling me and asking me to help them. And I didn't know how, I had no clue. I was like, if I didn't dream about them, I don't know what to do. So I started learning everything I could about intuition and the clairs and remote viewing and everything that I could to hone my skills so that I have some control over it. And I just, over 26 years or however long it's been, I just kept growing and growing and learning new things. And I still grow, I think. Um, I always say they just, have a way of moving the goalpost back. There's no there. I always say there's no there. They just keep moving the goalpost back.
So you've evolved from having it exclusively in dreams to then being able to purposefully connect with them during your daytime hours.
Mhm.
And in the process of getting those tools, understanding your clairs, did you notice there was a shift by having that right practice and right intention that you were able to then focus in more? So, because a dream can, well, great, can also be limited because you can't have the level of interaction that you
Yeah.
can if you're in a daytime understanding of things. So, can you walk us through what that would be like? Maybe you can even give an example of a case if you wish, but something of how it is that you receive the information and
Mhm.
your process.
Yep, I can do that. And I will say this about dreams. I love dreams. I love dream work. I adore dreams. I think they're brilliant. Um, but there's also too much room for um, misinterpretation. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems with using dreams for this kind of work is that, it would be very easy to misinterpret what's happening. Um, that one was very straightforward. So, because apparently the guides knew that I didn't know what I was doing. But for me now that I've honed my skills and when I first started this work, I was a very strong clairvoyant, but I didn't have clairaudience developed, and I had to learn to develop clairaudience as well, and all the other clairs. But I started, you know, being able to ask for what specific um, piece of information I wanted, and then to just get very quiet and let it come in however it was going to come in, whether it was through clairvoyance or clairaudience. So I hear a lot of my answers, um, but I also get visual images too. So I can ask anything like, show me the face of the perpetrator. And which is actually not my favorite thing. I feel like I'm weak in that area. I feel like that's the hardest thing for me. Um, but I could actually say, show me the location, the immediate area of the person who's missing, and then start getting some visual impressions of what this area looks like.
So in that process, are you writing this down? Are you verbally putting this out and recording? How are you accumulating the information?
I do both. Uh,
Mhm.
a lot of times I just make notes and I sketch. Doodling helps me a lot. Doodling just helps open me up and let me get into the zone receiving mode and focusing. So a lot of times I'll sketch, especially I'm not a great sketch artist at all. Um, but but sometimes I just can't find the words to describe what I'm trying to describe, and so sometimes it's easier to just sketch it out. So a lot of times for a department that's asking me to work on a case, I will do it all verbally, and have a recording so that I can give it to them and they can listen back to it.
And so in that process, how long have you noticed you've been able to sit with that and that energy to receive?
It depends. If I have somebody, I typically have a detective who's worked with me for a really long time, and she'll sit and she'll ask me all the appropriate questions so I don't have to think about what the questions are. And I can stay in that mode for 2.5 hours, maybe three, and then I'm exhausted.
And do you feel that that is coming more as a psychic impression or that you are possibly connecting mediumistically with the spirit of the person?
Um, it happens both ways. I try to avoid the mediumistic part because um, they can just, take over. They can just take over the whole thing and sidetrack me.
Ah, Yeah,
because they've got their own thoughts and their own agenda and their own stuff going on. And
true.
sometimes I have to say, I'm trying to help your family. So hi, I'll tell them hi. But let me do my work. And they're usually really respectful of that. So
Well, it's
so
good
I
that you know what works best for you and how the
yeah,
boundaries need to
I
be
do
set.
ask them usually to step aside and let me do my process that works well for me. Usually they're really good about that.
They probably said, okay, all right, I'll back off and
Uh-huh.
let her
Uh-huh.
get this. Do you when you're getting the remote viewing of the location that they're in, do you get a sense of the of any of the geography coordinates, or you just get a sense of what the location looks like?
What it looks like, I wish I could know where it was.
Or do you like ever look at a map and go there?
Yeah. I
Okay.
wish I could do that. And I've studied dowsing forever and I still struggle with that. But it's all for me it's all visual. Once in a great while I'll hear it. I had a woman whose daughter um was missing. We knew she was alive. We knew she was okay, but she didn't know where she was. And I kept hearing in my head, she's in Spain. And her mom was going, "That's just not possible, that she wouldn't be in Spain." And I guess, about a week later, she called me up and she said, Interpol ran her and they found that she has Spain in her passport. So, it turned out to be true that she'd gone to Barcelona. So, sometimes I do get the answer, but most of the time I get pictures of an area, and it's like trying to solve a puzzle, right? Trying to figure out where you are, trying to find any kind of a landmark that'll help me figure out where I'm at.
And so, well, you said that an investigator is usually the one that's asking you questions through that process, kind of keeping you on track and helping you to kind of go deeper into the experience. Do you do any kind of get into a trance beforehand or prep work before the questions start?
I used to. I've been doing this for so long that I can get
You're able
through
to,
like
yeah,
almost immediately.
quickly take a
Yeah.
deep breath and you're in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then in the process of this, do you work exclusively with that other investigator?
No, I work with all kinds of investigators. It's just interesting because if they've never worked with someone like me, they don't know the process. So there's always this teaching part that has to happen, and I have to help them explain to them not to ask leading questions, because they'll get excited and go, "Do you see a blonde woman?" I'm
And you're
like,
like,
uh,
no,
well,
no.
I do now. Now I do.
It's kind of like feeding you information, and you want to be the one that is offering
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's okay to ask me questions after I brought it up. If I say, "Oh, I see this blonde woman," then they can say, "Tell me more."
right.
Uh,
And go deeper into that. Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Because otherwise it's like, they've just said pink elephant, and you're like, how can I not
Yeah,
think
go
about
look at the
pink
pink
elephant?
elephant.
Right, exactly. So in also in this process of you working with them, are all of the cases that you're working on in the more recent years brought to you by these departments, or do families start to reach out to you
It's
even now?
usually families, and then they talk their detective into it. And it's usually the family that talks to the detective into it.
So
Yeah.
you get the family's permission first
Mhm. Well,
because they've reached out to you.
the families usually approach me on my website or Facebook or something. And and then, I can ask them what their relationship is with the law enforcement, and would law enforcement, their detective, be comfortable working with me. It's easier to work with law enforcement directly than the family because they're so tender,
Emotional. Yeah,
vulnerable,
yeah.
and you just have to be so careful. And I don't want to give them information sometimes that, they all want to know if their loved one's alive or dead. And I don't want to be the one to answer that most of
Mhm.
the time. I really, um, put a lot of disclaimers on that of, I could be wrong, I'm not sure. I usually dance around it a lot because, um,
Which makes sense because you have to be careful, and you
yeah,
don't know whether they're gonna jump on a plane or get in a car and try to do something that might actually disrupt a better outcome.
yeah. And they're so fragile a mental state that, they hang on your every word, and you just have to be so incredibly careful that, I'm always just I'm always just constantly trying to do no harm.
Mm-hmm. And how many cases would you say end up on your desk, so to speak,
Oh, God.
in the course of a year?
Oh man, I was going to say in a week.
Well, do a week.
In the course of a week, probably three, probably about three. Yeah, something like that.
And what percentage of them are missing people that are living versus having passed? Do you have a sense of those?
It's
Yeah.
interesting. Probably living is a small percentage, unfortunately, probably maybe 20%.
Mm.
But I seem to be attracting more and more of those cases, which I'm happy about. um, so I've started attracting more and more live persons, but it's, yeah, the percentages aren't good.
Yeah. And I mean, this is intense work that you're having to do. And what do you do to kind of balance that out for yourself?
I go to the ocean.
Take it away, waves, take it away.
Yeah, yeah. I walk in nature, I go to the ocean, I play. I find play is very, very healing. And just anything I can do to kind of um, balance that out.
Well, I found for myself over the years, it's really important to have a clear, healthy boundary so that when I'm doing the work of
Mhm.
a medium, that's 100% what I'm doing. But then after that closing prayer, I have to go be a regular person in the
Yes,
world.
yeah.
And I'm sure that's the case for you, so that you can go to the grocery store without feeling the bombardment of it, because you really want it to be in strength when you're trying to help these people,
Yes.
these families.
I
So
just made a
are you
joke about
strict
that
with it
yesterday.
too? That are
I
you strict
just
with
made a
your
joke about that yesterday.
boundaries?
About people coming to me and saying that they're on all the time and they don't have boundaries, and they walk around the grocery store and they're seeing, and I was like, no, I said, if a spirit approaches me, I'm like, I don't think we have an appointment. Do
That's
you have
right.
an appointment? I don't see you in my calendar. Uh,
That's right.
and
Yep.
I have that very strict sort of, I would love to talk to you if, we had an appointment and I was speaking to your person, but you're not going to follow me around the grocery store. So
That's
I just have those very clear
excellent.
um, types of boundaries, and I don't really uh, have those issues.
Right. And it helps you to be more productive, and also to be able to keep your own energy up. Because then when you're at 100%, you're more likely to be able to help more people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so
I definitely am on when I decide I'm on, and I'm off when I decide I'm off. Yeah, for sure.
mhm. Now, with some of these cases, do you have to sit more than one time, or you just sit one time with each case?
Good question. Sometimes several times.
Mhm.
Sometimes, but I always appreciate that initial read. For me, that initial read is the most important, and I try to spend as much time as I can, because I feel like from then on, I'm going to be polluted a little bit mentally, and
Right.
I'll never have that clear space again to, because of what I didn't say is that when I take a case, I really don't want to know anything. I
That's
want to
right.
know what they need from me. Are they looking for a location? Are they what is it you need from me? But I don't want to know anything about the situation, because I just want to be clear and not have my brain jump in and fill in the blanks. So
So do you start with their name?
I start with a picture.
Or a picture. Okay. So you don't even know their name. You just want a picture.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sometimes I know their name, but a lot of times I don't. I just have a picture. And
Do you want the most recent photo of them, or does it matter where and in their age spectrum that the photo is produced?
yeah, not necessarily. I think for me, it's more important that I can see their eyes and I can see their face. So I just want to be able to connect with their eyes.
Got it. So the most clear picture that would have their eyes.
Yeah,
Eyes are the window to the soul.
they are. They are.
Yes,
So if
yes,
somebody's always really squinty or they're always wearing sunglasses, that's kind of a challenge for me.
yes.
Yeah.
So do you ever say, I need a different photo?
Yes. Yeah. I always just say send like four, and let me pick the one that seems to jump out at me at
Wonderful.
different ages and, things like that.
So that's all you want to start with is that picture and whether they need a location or what would be the other option of
Yeah.
information.
Are they looking for a location or are they looking for a perpetrator? What is it that they're actually looking
What
for?
if they say all of the above?
Yep. Then I go through my whole spiel of the who, what, why, when, and where. So
Hmm.
then I just go through. That's just I have a little bit of ADD. So if I know what I'm working on, who, what, why, when, where, that keeps me on track.
And so do you tend to receive information in that sequenced order of the who, the what? So you've got it all trained out that that's your automatic pilot that you will receive it in that particular order.
Well, I have to ask. It's like a conversation. It's a
Mhm.
lot like mediumship. It's a conversation. So,
Yes.
I'm asking uh about a specific question and then I just get quiet and wait for the answer to come in and then I ask the next question.
Hmm.
So it's a kind of a give and take.
Hmm. And to that end, when you're in that next question, do you ever feel like you don't need a next question, that you're getting the next piece of information without the question?
Sometimes.
Hmm.
It's I see questions as putting my foot on the gas.
Ah, right,
If the
right,
session starts to stall out, for me, asking questions is like putting my foot on the gas.
right. Put another little like oomph to what it's happening. And do you ever feel that there's an arc in your energy as you're going through that process?
Yeah.
And can you describe what that's like, that arc of energy?
Definitely for me, I think I don't hold, somebody told me this too, one of my mentors told me this, that you really can't hold strong focus for more than 20 minutes without, having to look away, breathe, whatever, pull away for a minute and then go back in. And I think that that is true of me, that I can hold a strong focus for a certain amount of time and then I have to break for a minute and then go back.
And so when you're taking that break, is that like you just tell them I'm taking a pause and take a couple of deep breaths? What does that break look like for you?
No, for me, sometimes I'll just start like normal conversation or,
Mm.
take a little regular.
Commercial break.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Well,
a commercial break.
for studying, they say 20 minutes, then take a few minutes
Mhm.
off and then go back for 20-minute segments of time. So I think
Mhm.
it's wise because you need to be able to keep your energy up and keep your focus and attention where it needs to be. Have you found that mind focused techniques have helped you in your work as you've gone through this? And what are some of the most effective mind focus
Well, for
techniques?
me, it's just meditation, meditation, meditation. So I learned how to meditate. I tried a bunch of different methods, and I finally learned at the temple actually with the Vietnamese monks who taught me how to count and breathe and count and breathe. And that method seems to be the one that really, really works for me. Obviously, I'm not receiving information during those sessions, but I'm learning to control my mind learning
Mhm.
how to stay focused.
And also keep your energy even. So because
Even.
you're more effective if you're of even mind, which is why I would understand why you'd say, okay, the spirit, you need to kind of stay at bay. Let me do this on an intuitive level. And also the family, I can't have you present in the room while I'm trying to do this sort of thing. All eyes on you. You need to have it in that nice, more of a controlled bubble of energy so that you can have the true focus. But then as you're working, some of these would be considered horrific images, difficult things
Yeah.
that you're having to process through that. How do you keep yourself separated from that information so that it doesn't visit you later?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you said a couple things that are interesting to me. So I have had to do readings live on camera. Um, with a whole police station standing there looking at me, looking at me. So, when I did Sensing Murder, everything on that show was done live. So it was all on camera. And a lot of times they did have a whole department, peanut gallery back there staring at me. There was a lot of pressure, not my favorite way to work, but there was a lot of pressure there. What was the question though? I lost it.
So you're exposed to images and
Oh,
information.
right.
It would be considered kind of graphic content in
Yeah.
all of this. How do you keep yourself in that detachment space so that you don't have that, looping in your mind later on?
Yeah, this is why I think I've gravitated so much towards missing persons work because
Mhm.
there's less of that, focusing on just find them instead of, what happened. Um, but as far as that goes, I had a teacher who said, to me, remember when you're seeing these images, these are things that have already happened. You can't change them and they can't hurt you, for one. So I had to give my subconscious mind permission to actually show me things because I would
Yeah.
block things that were
Yeah.
scary.
You're like,
Yeah,
no,
I'm
no.
like, can't see it, can't see it. I didn't know I couldn't see it. I just was like, can't see it. Um, but I always try to disconnect after looking at that. And that's why I categorize things so well. That's why I
Mhm.
can focus on a vehicle or a location or describing a person. I spend very little time actually involved in the what happened.
Mm,
And it's
mm.
its own little box. And I look at it only long enough to understand it, and then I look away from that. Um, so I do categorize really well so that I don't just get overwhelmed with all of that. But I do mental showers. Cleanse your aura when you're done with that kind of content. I really do a lot of visualization of just washing it all out.
Yeah, that's essential, very important for anybody who does this kind of work, so
Mhm.
that they can kind of purify their soul senses in that process and be ready for the next thing in their own life or the next case, as
Right.
it may be.
And that's why going into nature is so helpful to really decompress and, get all of that, get all of that stress and all of that out of there.
And so you've gotten really good at keeping it at bay so it doesn't replay and loop in your mind afterwards. So
Well,
if
it did when I was starting. I would just kind of obsess over cases. But I
because you
learned,
care, you care. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and you want to figure it out, and your mind just keeps chewing on it. And there is a part of me that still does that a little bit, especially with the missing persons ones. But because I am involved in physical searches, so I am search and rescue
Mm,
also. So I
okay.
am involved in the actual searching. Um,
So to some extent, that's almost dowsing too. Or are you, if you're directing them to the actual location or saying, yes, this matches the
mhm.
vision of what I was seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
because you can't just say, "Oh, it's the woods." You're
Right.
like, "Where in the woods?" And then
Right.
you're kind of almost like, "Well, this section. Oh,
Mhm.
this looks familiar."
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then
Deja vu feeling of, oh, I've been here. Yep. This is, this is right. Or no, this doesn't look right at all.
so
Um,
describe that, if you will, when you're in the search and rescue. They have their people, they have sometimes dogs
mhm,
and things like that. And here you come out, and they know what role you're going to have.
mhm.
Are you the lead bloodhound, or how does this work?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I am. When I work with dog, I love working with the dogs. I think it's fascinating. Um, I feel like my job is to get them into a specific area and then let the dogs do their thing.
Right.
So I try to just get them into the right ballpark and then let the dogs do their job. So that's kind of how I see my role.
Hmm.
Um, so it's really just trying to find the thing that looks like what I'm seeing in my mind. And I'm better at navigating than dowsing. It's like using my whole body as a dowsing tool.
Okay.
A lot of times I can tell, weirdly enough, I can follow somebody's path for a certain amount of time. So if I know their last location, I can follow them. I lose it eventually, just like the dogs do. I
Yeah.
lose it eventually, but I can tell where I can generally stand in a location and tell you if somebody's been there or not. I can sort of sort
So
out.
we'll give you another tile, energy tracker.
Hmm.
so,
Hmm. Yeah.
so in that sense, I always think of it energetically. Everywhere we go, there's almost like that snail trail, right? Or
Yeah.
in Family Circle, there's that one little boy, and he would travel all over the neighborhood. You see the little dashes as he
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
go here and there to different
Yeah.
around people's houses. And so
Mhm.
for you, you're following that energy. And do you feel almost like a magnetic pull toward it, or do you feel
Mhm.
like there's a light up of the path, or how does that feel for you?
It definitely feels kind of like a magnetic pull.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, if I come to a junction, I can just stop and ask myself which way feels right. And I'll just know we have to go right. We have to go right. Yeah, I just can feel it.
And the rest of those people that are part of the team know to leave you alone and just
Mhm.
kind of let you sniff
They
it
do
out.
know to give me some space and leave me alone. Yeah. Because they
And
will. I have worked with teams that like tried to talk me out of it,
mm,
said, no, no, it can't be that way because we already searched over there. Or, they'll try to
right.
talk me out of it. And so I've learned that that's a problem. Um, so I have to just have them, leave, leave me be
Leave
for a
me
little.
alone, because you don't, the other part of it is you probably don't want them talking to you and interrupting you with their ideas and thoughts, because it can take you off and lead
Yeah.
you further
Yeah.
afield from it. Their energy encroachment, as it were. And so you've learned to lay down the ground rules in
Yeah.
advance
Because I
so
can
you can be more
sometimes,
productive.
right? I can sometimes feel what they are thinking or what their favorite theory is, or even what they're pushing me and wanting me to. I can sometimes feel pressure, like that they're wanting me to say a certain thing or they're wanting me to do a certain thing. I can feel that pressure sometimes. I'm really resistant to it. I've learned to be super resistant to it. I'm like, I don't know what it is you think you want me to say, but I'm just gonna get what I get.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they have to learn to give you space with this. Have you noticed that if you've worked with a particular team of investigators before, that there's a greater ease? They're like, okay, we trust Pam.
Mhm.
She's gonna lead us where we need to go. Have you
Yeah.
noticed that it shortens the time of you being able to find that person too?
Hopefully. It's still a process of elimination
Okay.
a lot of times, yeah.
Hmm.
I still have to go. We have a missing hiker and we have not been able to find him. It's just a hugely vast area. But he went on a hike, but there's 6 trails to get to the place he was going. And we don't know which trail he was on. So I had to go to each trail. I had to go to each trail, walk a mile on the trail, so I could get a feel on whether I thought he was on that trail or not, and to
Okay.
try to narrow down which trail he went up.
And does it also, if other people have been searching or walking along that trail, does that also mess with the energy tracking? Or do you notice that you're able to discern their energy, their particular vibrational frequency they left behind, so to speak, the energy residue of that? You're able
Mhm.
to get to hone into it like that's the correct radio station
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
no static,
Hmm.
and that's what you can follow through with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I guess it's just such a strong intentional thing that I want
mhm.
to tune out everything else, but being able to tune into their particular frequency and tell if they were there. Yeah.
So, what are some things you would tell people who also have these inklings, these glimmers, these
Mhm.
understandings, and maybe they've received a dream like you did, or they've watched the news and they're just like, I know where that person is. What would you advise them to do next?
Be very careful. Don't just call up the police. I always say, please don't just call up the police because they're getting hundreds of unsolicited calls and it's actually a drain on them. Um, and I know for us, it's exciting because we're like, I know, I know. But then you call them up and go, I see a path in the woods, right? And they're like, no, no, no. Um, so I always say, if you can't find it based on what you saw, don't call them and
Mm,
expect them to find it. I know we get caught up in it because we're like, hey, I know where they are. I feel like I know where they are. Um, but law enforcement have to have more specific, very specific information, or it'll just irritate them.
is there a danger that if you can, let's say you decide, I know where they are, I'm going to get in the car, I'm going to go to such and such a place, there's a danger they might be accused of the crime themselves?
I know people always think that, but
Yeah,
finding
but
them, finding them is that lightning strike. It happens so rarely
like
for,
finding gold.
yeah, it happens so rarely that the odds of it are slim. Um, and most of the time, you know, law enforcement's got a good enough grip on the case that they're not gonna think that, you did it. But that's why I like having them come to me, because if I do give them things that I'm not supposed to know, I'm like, well, you called me, so obviously I'm not involved.
That's great. And the other thing I was thinking about this is in terms of finding missing people, do you notice that if you are able to get it on a more let's say fresh rather than a cold case, that it's more effective, or have you noticed that that doesn't seem to matter?
It doesn't matter as far as time and space. I think the information is the same, but the part that does matter is that environments change. So if you
Mm,
have somebody who's been missing for 20 years, their location could have changed drastically. They could have torn down something and built a mall, or, you know, uh, there's a lot of things that could happen in nature, or just even big storms coming through, or big fires, or there's a lot of things that can happen over a period of time. So that makes it more challenging than actually receiving the information.
and so for you have if you're having to travel to some of these locations, are you keeping within a certain vicinity region radius, or are you going all across the country at times?
Um, I had a case where I had a case where a guy, it's an interesting case. I had a case where a guy crashed his car. He had been drinking, and this was in New Orleans. He crashed his car and he climbed out the window. The car was upside down. He climbed out the window and he disappeared. I mean, disappeared. And so I guess he had called his brother and said, come get me. And by the time the brother showed up to come get him, he was gone. Um, and 3 years later, they still couldn't find him. And I tracked him. I tracked him for the longest time because I knew he was alive. I knew he was alive. The detectives thought he was dead. They thought he went and fell in the water somewhere and drowned, or he had a head injury, and and I said, nope, I see him hanging out at homeless places, and I'm like, he's out there. And that case took me to Houston because in one of my sessions, I saw, I can't remember the name of this place, but it's a big sports stadium, and it was very unique because it had a steam engine sitting out in front, and it had like this wrought iron fencing around it, and it was right in front of a stadium. And I'm like, how many places can there be that has how many stadiums could there be that has a train in front? And
Right.
I found it, and it was in Houston, and so we took a chance and flew to Houston, and we actually did find him. So so
Wow.
yeah, so I started in New Orleans and ended up in Houston.
So you're able to find people even if they don't want to be found,
Hmm.
and especially if they don't want to be found.
But I
And
can, and I have done some fugitive work for somebody who's law enforcement's looking for, they're considered dangerous or something. I've definitely been able to help find somebody like that too.
Mhm, mhm.
It's
And
it's funny because I can read their intentions. That's how I track live people. So I'm good at reading their intentions. So usually I know what they want for lunch.
what
So
they're craving and where they're going to be
yeah.
for lunch.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually found a guy um because of that. Um they were looking for him, and I said he went home. He went to wherever he grew up. And I said, he's at Subway. I said he's at Subway. I'm telling you, he's at Subway. And so the detectives get the car and they zoom over, but they go to the wrong Subway. They go to the wrong town.
Oh,
Yeah, they were mistaken on where they thought he grew up. And then they started doing some research, and they realized it was another state. Um, so they called the detectives in the other state and said, go check his mom's house. And they checked the mom's house and they found him. But what's funny about it is that they actually sent me a picture, but they're in his phone. They went through his cell phone, and there was a text message to his mom going, "I'm going to Subway. Do you want anything?" And then they found a receipt in his pocket for Subway. So
for that very time. Oh, I love it.
so
So you
funny.
were just like confirmation, vindication about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
I have another couple questions. Have you helped assist with serial killers? That sense of finding them, locating them, so they that can be stopped.
I've done one, and I never wanted to do another one again.
Yeah,
It's the most disturbing, scary, upsetting thing I've ever done. So, yeah, just I don't like to do those.
yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to get into somebody else's mind and intentions with that. Yeah, definitely. One of those things where you have to hold at bay so it's not replaying in you again. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just their intentions are so difficult to grasp because they're not normal. And yeah, for me, I don't know. I really struggle with it.
Mm. And it's understandable. I think most people would cringe from all of
Mhm.
those things. Do you purposely not watch news and things like that so that you don't have, again, like not having advanced information,
Yeah,
for that reason?
all of the reasons I don't watch
Yeah.
the news.
For
All
that
the
you,
reasons, but but yeah, generally I do try to avoid it. So because if they come, to me, and I've already seen all of the speculation and all the stuff, that's going to be difficult.
oh, if someone's very interested, they feel that they have the gift for this. I know we talked just a bit ago about how
Mm.
it's important they don't necessarily reach out to the police if they get an impression about things. How would you suggest that they train this up and really find out whether this is something that they can specialize in, and their expectation financially, it's not going to be about remuneration about that. So a lot of that is just giving of your own heart. But how would you instruct people if they wanted to follow it in on that particular path of career? What would you tell them?
Um, yeah, I always tell them to try it. I have a recorded class that they can take at any time. It's a beginning class, and try it and see if it how it feels to you. You know, if you love it or if you go, I don't know if this is for me. You know, really to try the different exercises and things that are required, the kind of questions you're going to be asked of, and just really see if it feels good to you or it feels like, oh, this is too much work, or uh, oh, because I feel like everybody's intuitive. I feel like anybody can train themselves um, with enough hard work and dedication, but not everybody has the emotional makeup for this kind of work. And
Mm,
so you really have to be honest with yourself and decide if it's something that is, that you really feel a passion for, or if it's something that you feel like, gosh, I know some fantastic mediums, some really, really talented mediums that just won't touch it. They just don't want to deal with that kind of content.
yeah,
And that's okay. You just have to know yourself and know whether this is something that speaks to you or it doesn't. So I always say, try it, try the skills, see how you do, and see if it speaks to you.
mhm. And they can find more information about that on your website, pamcoronado.com, correct?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that they can take that recorded class and
Mhm.
really maybe test, as you say, test themselves. But there are a lot of components to being able to do this successfully, so that energetically you're not a puddle at the end of
Right.
it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's part of the training too. I do work on that with people, is to help them kind of learn how to disconnect a little bit, and a little bit of detachment, and things like that.
Well, I know in your upcoming classes, you're going to be here in Lilydale for the 2024 summer season. And for those of you who are just hearing about Lilydale for the first time, it's a very special community. It's a spiritualist community, and this is a place where people can come for the day, the week, or a whole season, which is 10 weeks. Starts June 21st this year and goes to September 1st. There are hotels and guest houses and restaurants and message services and healing services and workshops. And Pam, you're going to be one of our wonderful workshop presenters this year. I think it'd be great to share with them some of the information regarding your classes, because you're going to be here in July.
Mhm.
And that first is an evening with you.
Mhm.
Can you tell them a bit about what that evening will be like?
Well, first I want to say I'm super excited because I've never been to Lilydale. I've always wanted to go. Um, and so I was so excited when they reached out to me. I was like, yay. So I'm very excited. Thank you for hosting me. Um, and we decided to do something different than have me just stand up there and talk the whole time. I said, let's make this interactive. And everybody got very excited about that. And so, well, what does that look like? And so um, we have a volunteer, my assistant, who is going to come with me, and she's going to get lost somewhere in Lilydale while we're doing my talk, and we are going to, as a group, meditate and bring up visuals and see what we can do about locating her. See if we can actually find where she's hiding there in Lilydale. So it's going to be really fun. And then we're going to do one that's more of a whodunit kind of, murder mystery dinner,
Sure.
so we're going to do a little bit of a whodunit and let people test their, test their skills in a fun, safe way.
Yes, it's going to be delightful. So, for those of you who want to join us, that'll be on Saturday, July 20th, in the evening. And you can even get a VIP ticket. That means you get to be in the front row, you get to do a meet and greet with Pam, and really have that wonderful experience of the evening. So, make sure you get registered because tickets go fast for these things. And I have the ticket links as part of this post, so you can go ahead and get registered now and make your plans to be here in Lilydale for that. Now, the next day, you have another class, which is about strengthening your intuitive work. And that would be on the Sunday,
Mhm.
July 21st. And that's something that happens in the morning. Can you tell people about that one?
So that one's going to be a more of a real workshop format, where they will get um, me giving them some exercises to do, which we'll do together, and they'll always get the feedback right there, and it's fun, but they're going to learn a lot about how to pull in details and how, no matter what kind of work you want to do, I just think it's super important um, to learn how to pull in details, which is what sets your work apart and makes it useful and valuable. As a medium, um, I've had this conversation with one of my dear friends, John Holland, and we were talking about that, how he said, as a medium, you can't just say, well, I see you got a tattoo in honor of your loved one. Um, you can, but what are the odds of that? Right. Right. So if you say, but I see a butterfly tattoo, that's going to have huge meaning to your sitter. So it's the same thing with me. If I tell a detective, I see water, they're going to laugh a little bit. Of course you do. But when I tell them, well, it's salty water and it's flowing and it's doing this and doing that, and you get those details, that kind of stuff. So I always try to teach people how to get specifics.
Yeah, that's such an important part of this work.
Mhm.
And I think these will be great workshops for people. I think that they will enjoy both of them very, very much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to be wonderful that you bring a wealth of experience and you've real world experience.
Yeah, a lot. The
And
trenches. Yep.
and I know Lilydale is really excited that you're going to be here to present about these things and to really share your understanding of them, the deep understanding that you have. And people really appreciate the work that you've done over the years, the things you've done quietly too, not just on TV, right?
Mhm. Yeah. There's a
Things,
lot that's happened to crawling around through the woods that people don't they don't realize. Yeah.
yes, you probably have a whole outfit just for that.
I do. I do. Yeah.
So that you don't come out a total mess.
Yeah. I've had chicks and chiggers and all kinds
Oh,
of stuff. So yeah.
yeah. Well, you've been great to have on the show today to share with folks about finding missing people and it's such important work that you're doing, and I'm glad that other people have that interest and are really wanting to build their skills as
Yeah.
well so that they can help people through such a difficult time. And I know so many people probably express their gratitude
Mm.
for what you've done for their family. Really brought them peace, reunited them with their loved ones, and not, like you said before, not everything's gonna be tied up in a nice little neat bow,
Hmm.
but it's one step forward for each one of them.
And you know what, I kind of threw a little tantrum one time, because I was not having the success that I wanted in always finding my person. And I think I was, why? um, and one of the answers I heard was, it's the effort. The effort is what matters to these families, to know that somebody cares and somebody's trying and somebody's listening. and feels compassion for them, and they're not just forgotten in this justice system. I think that's a hugely important part of it too.
An excellent point. So
Hmm.
that they are not just another number
Right.
to this experience. And you know, I can understand where law enforcement, it has limited resources at times, and things kind of get shunted to the side because there are more immediate criminal needs that
Hmm.
are in their face that they need to address. And so it takes a special person to be willing to, first of all, do this level of detective work, hold the energy, and still remain in that compassionate state. And I think you do that so beautifully, Pam.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, I appreciate you being a guest on the show today. And please, everyone, get excited about Pam coming to Lilydale. If you don't already have your tickets, get them and enjoy what she has to offer. And you can find more about Pam on her website,
Yeah.
pamcoronado.com. And certainly on her Facebook page, you can follow and learn more from her there.
Yeah.
And so tune in next week. I'll have another great Wednesdays with Willa show for you so that we can explore another great topic and guest. So same time, same place, Willow White Medium on Facebook. All right, everyone, take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Mhm. Bye.